This is State Representative Kerry Condata inviting you to watch our new and improved 12th District 2.0 show. Guest hosts John Wise and Shiloh Shower bring it all home with yours truly, Kerry Condata.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to 2019. This is the 12th District with your state representative for just another week or so, Kerry Condata. This is our special edition in-session program. We'll be doing this every week for the rest of this session, which goes through April 30th. You'll be hearing from your state representatives Mike Steele and, of course, Representative-elect, soon-to-be Representative Keith Gaynor, also on the program every week. And every week we'll be telling you about the new bills that introduced, the hearings, what's going to the floor, what's not. And, of course, we'll be following that amazing $55 billion budget proposal, all right here on the 12th District. Stay tuned. It's going to be quite a ride. We're going in session.
Squirrel Tree at Cole's Corner in Leavenworth is the place to be. New bar, 8 TVs, 2 pool tables, darts, live music, and great food.
Welcome back to the 12th District 2019. This is our in-session program. We're about a week away from the actual session. We'll be getting live updates from both your state representatives every week on this show. But in the meantime, before we start into a new session, we have to look at what came from the last session and the last election. What new laws kicked in on January 1? Well, let's start though with the most controversial one of all in this area particularly is I-1639, the most sweeping gun control initiative probably in the United States. It is currently under many different lawsuits. There are at least 4 lawsuits filed against 1639, but in the meantime, the initial effect, January 1st, is the raising of the age to purchase a semi-automatic weapon. Of course, the semi-automatic weapon is defined by the initiative itself. There is a lot of confusion as to what is a semi-automatic weapon. Some gun stores feel that there are a lot of semi-automatic weapons that do not fall under this. So it's even controversial in its first iteration, which is basically this raising of the age from 18 to 21. So you now must be 21 to purchase a semi-automatic weapon. And that is the major provision that kicked in on January 1. The enhanced background checks and storage requirements, another piece of this initiative, which has many moving parts, actually will go into effect in July unless the lawsuits find either or all of it unconstitutional, which is highly likely based on what we're hearing. We'll just see how Initiative 1639 turns out, but for right now, you must be 21 to purchase a semi-automatic weapon. Service animals, an interesting bill that hasn't been looked at nationwide. It starts right here in Washington. There has been a lot of abuse with people using service animals, various animals, bringing them on airplanes, bringing them into restaurants, calling them service animals when maybe they're just pets. So our very own Representative Mike Steele passed a model bill last year that takes effect on January 1 that says that animal must be trained in some way to help that person's disability. So it's a very tight definition. Should alleviate a lot of problems with so-called service animals. It is a major change for Washington State and is being looked at by many other states across the nation. Hospital disclosure is one of my favorites this year. The hospitals, your providers must now tell you what they're charging for various procedures, and they must post it online. To me, this is the first step to our consumer-based healthcare system, which is what we should have had years ago and where we should be heading right now. Consumer-based means that basically the provider and the consumer are connected directly without an insurance company between. And of course, to do that, you have to know what the pricing is. So the hospitals now must price procedures. Everything from hip replacement to whatever has to be online. We'll be interested to see how long that menu is and how that's formatted, but that is the new requirements for hospitals to put all their charges online. I think this is a great step in the right direction. Also, from a small business perspective, we're looking at minimum wage going from $11.50 to $12. In Seattle, employers with over 500 employees must pay $16 an hour, and if they're under $500 an hour, or 500 employees, then they must be at $15 an hour, but you can include tips and some benefits. So minimum wage law is changing again Next year it will take its final jump to $13.50. That will be January 1, 2020. For now, $12 minimum wage statewide. And of course, the big one, the program that has been very controversial, paid medical leave, kicks in. And that means that every employee in the state of Washington will be paying a premium for medical leave. There will be no benefits until January 1, 2020. This is strictly a tax at this point on all employees. For employers 50 and above, they will pay at least 1/3. They can pay more, they can pay all of it, but they do have to share at least 1/3 of the cost. For employers with 50 or less employees, it's 100% paid by the employee, although those businesses also have the option to share in that cost. This is a major tax. It will create hundreds of millions of dollars in a fund that will be used to pay for paid medical leave starting in January 1, 2020. So that is not to be confused with paid sick leave, which went into effect last year, which provides for 1 hour of paid, basically 1 hour paid for every 40 hours worked. That is the paid sick leave program. That is in effect, and that is now fully functional for 2019. Again, paid family leave not functional till 2020. Two completely different programs on top of the minimum wage. Pretty challenging for small business. So there you have it, some of the major new laws for January 1. We are coming back in just a few minutes with a preview of this session from Representative-elect, at least for one more week, Keith Gaynor. He'll be with us to tell us what his committees are and what he expects to accomplish in session. This is Kerry Condata. We'll be right back with Representative-elect Keith Gaynor.
Is your vehicle in need of a quick oil change or tune-up before hitting the road this summer? Stop by Quick Lube and Tune, the home of the good guys at 610 South Wenatchee Avenue.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's a wrap for today's 12th District, our first show of 2019. We want to thank Representative-elect Keith Gaynor for stopping by and giving us some input on where he's going. He's got some great committees. He's going to do some great work for you over there. It is going to be a very long session. It starts late. It starts on the 14th and goes clear to April 30th. That's a little later than normal, and it is going to be a very difficult session with the Republicans being in a smaller minority and up against a more, I would say, Seattle-based opposition. They are going to be challenged with a great deal of new policy and some very big tax proposals, which could be very significant for the people here in the 12th District. Seattle and the 12th District seem to be two different worlds, but we're going to keep you in touch with both sides all the way through this session and make sure that you know what's going on. Unfiltered, straight up. You're going to be hearing from your state representatives every week on this show. Now I'd like to take just a moment out of personal preference, I guess, and say thank you to all the folks over the years that have been so supportive of my representative position and my re-elections 8 times in a row, 16 years. It was a long ride, but I got to see an awful lot. I got to learn an awful lot in the process. I think we did a lot of good things for the 12th District. I'm a little fearful moving forward that things might not be as good in the future as we get more Seattle-centric in that Olympia Dome. We worked hard for years to stop that onslaught of the far left, and we did a good job up until recently when they started using initiatives like I-1639 and of course paid sick leave and other initiatives to really circumvent what we had held at bay for some time. Now it seems like that dam is broken and things could move considerably to the left, probably more like California. I hope that's not the case, because for those of us here in the 12th District, we like our lifestyle. It's worked out very well. We have a low crime rate, we have a good economy, we have a wonderful community, and we'd like to keep it that way. We certainly don't want to end up like Seattle is, which is considered now one of the most deteriorating cities in the country, and of course to join Portland and San Francisco as well, with high crime rates, high homelessness, and a lot of real problems that we just don't need to face here in the 12th District. So as your state representative, I have been proud to serve you for 16 years. I again thank you for all the tremendous support. All my small business friends, we did what we could to keep you intact. You got some big challenges coming up ahead of you. We will do everything we can to continue to stay engaged in the process. I am not leaving politics. I will be doing this show every week, and I'll be working from the outside looking in I assure you my political career is not over with, because the good fight is worth fighting, folks. Freedom and liberty and all the things this country was founded on, that wonderful Constitution, it means something, and we've got to stick to it. We cannot let it slip away. There is no place else on earth to go, no place to run, and we've got to keep it here. So keep it here with us on the 12th District. I'm Kerry Condata. Next week I'll be just Kerry Condata, former representative, recovering politician, and here to serve you as your conduit to Olympia in our in-session series between now and April 30th. Thanks for joining us. We'll look forward to seeing you next week. By the way, Mike Steele will be with us for another preview show before we go actually in session for the real thing the following week after that. So look forward to Mike Steele next week. We'll also take a quick look at the governor's budget and that new transportation package, including a carbon tax, of course. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
Are you wanting high-speed internet but don't have access to PUD fiber? Try Sky-Fi high-speed wireless internet from LocalTel. Call 888-8888 today.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. The 12th District in session. Well, we're almost there. We've got about a week to go before we move to Olympia. We'll be doing an interview every week with your representative, Keith Gaynor, and Mike Steele, direct from Olympia. So you'll be finding out what's going on. And, of course, we'll be covering all the bill introductions and all the news that goes with that session as well. Today we are pleased to have with us for the last time live here in the studio, because you're about ready to take off. This is Representative-elect Keith Gaynor for another few days as he gets sworn in on the 14th, and you're going to be in Olympia. Are you all set, ready to go?
Ready to go.
Ready to go. Did you find some place to live over there?
We did. We have a nice little condo. It has a nice, it worked out well, the way things, it is an interesting search in trying to find a place to live, but my wife and I will be over in a condo that we found that will fit well for us.
Well, that's excellent. It is not always easy to find housing in Olympia. It's a very busy time of year. And so your wife's going with you. That's good news, because that's always a challenge. And but do you still have some business back here? I assume you'll have to come back from time to time, or are you just planning on spending the time there?
Well, actually, I've been already doing all the year-end things with the orchard and making sure that W-2s are taken care of in the year-end reports, so that I don't have to worry about that. But there are some challenges of being a farmer and getting, when your taxes are due, it's while you're still in session.
That's right.
So I'm going to be challenged to get that done, but I think we'll make it work.
All right, sounds good. Well, you've finally got some committee assignments. They were a little late getting here. Seems like it took them a little extra time, but they obviously looked at your previous job and put you in local government and state government for two, and of course those are both things that you're very aware of, particularly local government. Let's start with that particular committee. Obviously you have a lot to say about local government and how they're treated, particularly by the state.
Well, that is a concern that I have, and that is one of the things that I mentioned during the campaign, coming from a background of county government for many years, 16 years. I mean, I was able to see over the course of time how there were numerous legislative actions that took place where I think it was very difficult, I think, for the legislature to understand the impacts on local government. And so, when you look at each thing that gets layered on is another added expense for county government to make happen. And one of the things that we've always said about county government is they get the job done. And they're required to do that, and we've been able to do that here locally with Chelan County, and yet we still have been challenged. And as we just adopted our budget here just recently that dipped into our reserves, that will be a continual challenge for local government.
Well, this constant battle between state and local government has been going on as long as I've been around, and well before that. One of the bills that's been dropped already, though, really concerns me, and that is a look at the taxing capacity of local governments. I think it was Sherry Appleton on the Democrat side that has primed that bill. And I really believe what that's after is to show that there is available taxing power at the local level so that the state can be let off the hook. I think that's where it's going, but how do you feel about that overview of local taxes?
Well, I really don't feel real good about that, because I do feel like the state has collected taxes beyond what they anticipated. The revenues have come in higher than anticipated. And to say, well, local government, you can go ahead and tax your citizens even more, does not, doesn't sit well with me. I think that right now there's an adequate amount of tax being collected to do the statutory requirements of government. And I think what we really need to be looking at is what is the size of government that is really required for the state of Washington.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is, particularly at the state level. These new budget proposals are amazing how large it's grown. Let's talk about the next committee, state government. Now, this is state government, and they added a little something. They added the tribal
relations.
Tribal relations. So I'm not sure exactly where that goes. There has been pieces of tribal relations in different committees. Typically, it has to do with the compacts that the state enters with the tribes. And the tribes, of course, are always trying to negotiate deals with the state. I assume that's what will happen in there. Have you had experience with the tribes locally? Have you worked with them?
Actually, we have had some experience. We've had some experience through the natural resource side, with the Yakimas and the Colvilles and the salmon recovery issues, but we've also had issues with the tribes of Wapato, up in Manson, the tribe up there with
Sure.
the Wenatchee. So there are things that through the years that we've had relations at the county level, but from the state level, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Obviously, this 12th district does include some of the Colville Reservation, and so that it is a pretty an appropriate assignment for me to sit.
It is,
on.
and it is fascinating because there's always a new twist in that relationship. Also, in state government, they deal a lot with the elections. There's always been a push to make it easier to vote. Every year that I was there, they were pushing for same-day voter registration. They always fight having ID for voting, which I think is a little ridiculous. But do you feel there's any major changes that need to be made in the voting system? Is it working the way it should? I mean, I think at the Chelan County level it's pretty solid, but do you feel that the current voting system is adequate?
Well, we've had a few elections where there's been counties throughout the state that I think we were a little suspicious of how they came up with their votes.
Yes, there's that.
What I've seen at the Chelan County level, we've had a very secure election process. The one thing that I do miss, and I think I've heard from a number of people that miss this also, is the opportunity to go in the day of the polls. Basically go in and talk with poll watchers, the people that know their community, they know who's voting. They are assured that the people that are voting are people that truly live in their district. And I think in some of the areas that we've, experienced some of that, when I say suspicious nature of, of ballot totals, it's because we don't have a real clear understanding of who's all in that precinct, for example.
Right.
So I think that there is an opportunity there for us to really get people more involved. It's important for people to understand that citizenship, gives you that right to vote, and that is something that should be taken seriously. And we should work diligently to, ensure the integrity of the election process.
I think particularly after this last election, especially nationally, there were so many issues in so many states. I think we did a little better than the average. Well, there's going to be a lot to deal with in state and local government, but the big one, you have one fiscal committee, and it's a big one this year, and that's transportation, because there are some really big plans being laid on the table. We've seen a lot of, we previewed a little bit of it earlier in the show, about the transportation package that's been suggested by the chairman of the committee, which is Senator Hobbs. And it includes, believe it or not, a $15 per ton carbon tax. Will they ever get off the carbon tax thing? I mean, we've had two initiatives run. Both have failed miserably, and yet they're still suggesting a carbon tax. How do you feel about that?
Well, the carbon tax is one that I do not feel real good about. And it's primarily because we really cannot quantify, the real results of reducing the carbon. I know that there are those that would say that, well, that has this direct effect on the climate, but my concern is that when you're taxing people, they need to know why they're being taxed, and there shouldn't be the opportunity to avoid the tax. I mean, the people that are actually, dispensing the carbon or whatever commodity you're taxing, they should not, in my opinion, should not be able to buy credits and continue if that's really your end game. So right. I mean, we've got to be sincere in how we approach this and make sure that if you're taxing, you get the desired result, and you have to be able to quantify what that result is.
Well, I think that's certainly the problem, is qualifying not only what the result is, but where that money goes. And I'm not sure in this particular package if that's really designated. Obviously, they're aiming it towards transportation at some point. The other issue in transportation is a gas tax. They're talking about another additional gas tax of 6 cents a gallon. We are now currently the third highest gas tax in the nation. I believe that would put us pretty close to number one. You know, it seems like we collect an awful lot of money. We're talking about $14.50 for the average fill-up goes to taxes alone. If you get $20 worth of gas in your car, it's about a $14 tax. Why is it so much more expensive in this state to build these transportation projects? Because other states have half that tax and actually have better roads and better infrastructure.
Well, I think one of the things that we have to really take a good hard look at are the regulations that are in place for the state of Washington. And when you look at mitigation for wetland encroachment or whatever, I mean, those types of things, the environmental impact statements that happen at the state level add a significant cost to the amount of the project. So to me, there are ways that we can actually get more done, get more bang for our buck, so to speak. And if we look closely and carefully and we're able to really come together and understand that some of the issues that we're, once again, addressing that we really can't see the direct benefit of, we need to make sure that the public is being served for the amount of money that they're paying.
Yeah, it seems like the amount of miles we get for the dollar is very, very low in this state. Mm-hmm. Well, transportation will certainly be a challenge, and there's a lot to that committee. It's a big committee, and you'll be spending quite a bit of time on it, I'm sure. All right, we're getting towards the end of our segment. Anything else you want to mention? You were talking about the possibility that you didn't make the Ag Committee, which you were kind of disappointed in, but tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the Ag and Natural Resource Committee was one that I was hopeful of getting appointed to, but I was told that those who were there definitely wanted to stay there. And with the decrease in the amount of Republicans that we have, we lost some slots also. So, even though that's something that's very important for this district, I won't be able to serve on that, but I certainly will be watching what is going on there. Education has always been something that's been of concern to me, so I will certainly stay involved as much as possible.
And your seatmate's the ranking member now on education, so that'll help.
Exactly. So it's true that some of the things that Mike, Representative Steele, has been appointed to will serve the district well, and I'll do everything I can to support him in those efforts.
Well, it's a team effort because trust me, you can't cover it all. There's an awful lot going on. Well, Keith, we wish you the best in Olympia. We're going to be following you. Appreciate you taking the time every week. You're going to be Skyping in with Representative Steele, and we'll get a direct report from you every week on this channel and on this show, and we're very excited about having that available. We'll be following it very closely, particularly the budget items, which is a big deal this year. And again, we wish you the best. Any last comments before you head off to the wonderful world of Olympia?
Well, the only thing I'd say is that I know that it's quite a learning experience, and so I'm looking forward to it, and I hope to serve this district well.
I think you'll do well. You're not a freshman by any means. I think you're probably the most experienced person we've ever sent over there, so that should work well. All right, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Representative-elect Keith Gaynor for about another few days, and then it will be Representative Keith Gaynor. We'll be right back with the 12th District.
Have a fun video you'd like to see featured on NCW Life? Email us at newsphotos@ncwlife.com.